All right, good morning everybody, and thanks for being here and learning all about GIS and some of the things that communities are doing. I'm going to have Veronica and Doug do the first talk about EAB and what they did with the EAB Readiness Plan for the Village of Bellevue. And then when they're done talking, then I'll just talk a little bit about the GIS perspective. So I'll let them introduce themselves and go from there.
All right, I'm Veronica. I'm actually a student from UW-Green. I was their intern over the summer for the Emerald Ash Borer project.
I'm Doug Tenner. I'm Village Forester for Village of Bellevue, and our approach to the encroaching emerald ash borer on our village, trying to mitigate some of the expenses.
Yeah. All right, so like we said, we're going to go through the presentation quickly. We're just going to start with EAB and what it is, so that you have some information about what we were dealing with. And then we'll talk about the readiness plan and what that involved in accordance to our tree inventory. And then Tim's going to take over and do the GIS portion and then the conclusion. So an overview of EAB. EAB is the emerald ash borer. It's a little green invasive beetle that came from Asia. It was found in Michigan in 2002 and was thought to have arrived on wood packaging material. As you can see in that little picture, it is smaller than a penny, so it's really annoying to find because it's very, very small. The real reason why it's an issue is it kills true ash trees, so this is going to be like green and white ash. It does not attack mountain ash, so if you have mountain ash, you're okay. But basically, once it's inside of a tree, it kills the tree within 2 to 4 years. So once it's here, if it finds an ash tree, your ash trees are going to be gone, and because it's so small, it's very hard to detect prematurely. So the state of Wisconsin realized this was an issue and put some quarantines in effect for both the emerald ash borer and other invasive species. EAB was found in Brown County. It was actually found here in the city in Green Bay in 2009, which if you're not aware is very close to Bellevue, so that's kind of why it was an issue. On its own, EAB doesn't really go that far, but one of the issues was hitchhikers. So it came from Michigan and got this way because people were bringing firewood, campwood, and nursery stock everywhere. So the state of Wisconsin had to put quarantines in place, and basically under the quarantines, this is the reason why you can't move your firewood when you go camping, is so that you don't spread this little beetle around. Because of the beetle, it's thought that there's 50 million trees that are dead or dying between Michigan, Wisconsin, and the rest of the Midwest. So some of the impacts of EAB, these two pictures are from Bloomington, Illinois. The picture with all the trees is obviously before the infestation, and the one that's empty is after infestation. This is not just because of emerald ash borer, it's because they had a monoculture. So by having all these trees, as soon as it came through, you can't leave a bunch of dead trees standing. So they lost all of their street trees that were ash trees because of poor planting, and you can't stop the emerald ash borer. As said before, street trees have a lot of great benefits, and mature trees have a lot more benefits than immature trees. So their stormwater runoff and their heating and cooling costs were obviously impacted by losing all these trees, and it's just not very pretty either. So this is a map of the Village of Bellevue. All of the dots in red are our existing ash trees, and then the ones in black were just the trees that are already there. A complete tree inventory was done in 2009 by a professional company, which was what we started off our project with. But one of the components was updating it to include all the trees since 2009 and all the replacements and everything that's changed. So, like I said before, EAB was found in Brown County and in the city of Green Bay. So this is the reason why we wanted to work on the emerald ash borer. And so in order to start getting the readiness plan together and be a little bit proactive, the village had to know how many trees and how many ash trees were around. So they took that 2009 tree inventory, which said there's about 4,000 public street and park trees that the village maintains. And of those, 1,000 of them were actually ash trees. So that was about like 23% of the original numbers were ash trees. So it's not only an issue of EAB comes, it's an issue of having a monoculture and things weren't planted properly with enough variety. So the village went forward and applied for an urban forestry grant through the Department of Natural Resources. This urban forestry grant is not specific to the emerald ash borer, so if any of you guys have urban forestry projects you'd like to go about, look it up. Basically, it's a 50-50 cost share program. The recipient has to put forward all the funds as it goes through the project, but as soon as December rolls around, the DNR actually reimburses for the costs that were eligible. So Bellevue was awarded this urban forestry grant, and through it we were able to cover EAB promotional materials, 2 workshops, a buddy tree program, an adopt a tree program, the readiness plan that was a part of this project, the EAB intern, which was myself, and then the tree inspections, and then the tree GIS and GPS inventory updates. So here are just some pictures of the preparation that went ahead in Bellevue in order to prepare for our readiness plan and to get the ball moving. The first picture is from our Green Ribbon event, where we just wrapped the public ash trees in the village with a green ribbon that said EAB kills, just to let residents know that they had ash trees and that was an issue that was coming. The picture below that is actually from our buddy tree program, in which we planted young trees next to mature ash trees. So when the ash tree dies or has to be removed, the little tree is now a medium tree that's providing some of the benefits. And then we have more species diversity now, so when the ash trees are gone, we've already started replacing and catching up on the process. And then the picture next to it is just a snapshot from one of our EAB workshops that was put on in collaboration with UW Extension. And that one would just let residents know what ash trees look like, and so they can take that information home for their private properties. So to begin working on the tree inventory updates and dealing with EAB, we had to know more about the ash trees that were in the village. We had the 2009 inventory, but that was only information from 2009. It's been quite a while since that happened, so we had to do some inspections. Wisconsin DNR suggests that you inspect 20% of your ash trees up close and personal in order to determine if you have EAB. So in order to do this, we rented an aerial lift, and Doug went up to the top of the tree.
And we did a sampling, take a small limb, and you peel back the bark to reveal any galleries from the larvae. And ideally you want to be, 2.5 to 4 inch limbs, something a little bit larger. The smaller ones don't tend to hold the emerald ash borer larvae long enough, or easy enough for them to travel in.
So we did these aerial inspections. We dedicated a week to it because we were aiming for 20%. That was about 200 trees. In the end, we only got to about 100 trees, but it was just time management, learning as we went. So we had 100 over 1,000 ash trees we inspected. We did not find EAB in any of our trees, which was actually really good for our readiness plan, because that means we could write our readiness plan with having some time to be preemptive instead of having to start removing trees tomorrow because they're going to be coming down.
One thing we did realize is that we did find out that we did have native borers that were in our ash trees, which helped because we put that information into our system so we could monitor them further down the road.
Yep, no. So as part of that, when we did the up-close and personal inspections, we rated the trees really closely. But afterwards, we couldn't do that with all 4,000 trees in the village. It took us 1 week to do 100 trees, so it just wasn't good time management. So after doing the aerial inspections, I actually went out with a handheld unit and or the GPS in order to personally visit all 4,000 trees in the village. When we did this, we did an inspection from the ground. It was not obviously as thorough as aerial inspections, and it wasn't as effective looking for EAB, but we were able to rate trees from 0 to 1 to see how they were doing. So when it came to make the plan and make decisions about what trees have to be removed and what's going to happen, we could use that information to determine, okay, this tree's been sick for a while or it has that native borer damage, so that one's going to go first. Like I said, I visited all 4,000 trees personally. For the ones that were already existing from 2009, I simply made sure they were still there. I updated some of their numbers, and I took their growth measurements. But for the trees added from 2009, I had to GPS their coordinates, figure out what species they were, and then take some basic measurements. So Tim is going to explain the QGIS components.
Thank you, Veronica. All right, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the data analysis, the collection tools. Basically, I was pretty much a small part of this project. I just assisted Veronica and Doug getting them the tools that they need and trying to get everything set up for them to do the data collection. Some of the GIS tools we used was QGIS and GeoMoose and Map Server, which is an open source GIS. It's free. You can download it right now and use it. We use ArcMap. We use ArcGIS Server Enterprise. Basically, we're a hybrid shop. We use a mix of tools to allow us to alleviate costs in our GIS and the maintenance and all that for licensing. For the GPS, we use a Trimble Geo XH with a Zephyr antenna. bipod cell phone with a VRS with a virtual reference station to give us down to a 3 to 4 inch accuracy. So it's a great tool to use. We've used it quite a bit for our utilities, and we're using it for our forestry. And then also a Juno and an ArcPad. So we're kind of old school yet. We don't have, you know, a collector or anything like that. We use ArcPad heavily in our organization. We have, I think, about 3 or 4 licenses, and they're all being used, and matter of fact, today too. We use a rangefinder that basically gives us the distance, the height, can give us the area. We did the height of the tree. Veronica used this tool. We bought it as part of the EAB Readiness Plan. The device is quite expensive, but it's very effective. And then, like Veronica was saying, we used something that was like a diameter tape measure for, like, you know, measuring at the breast height. So we were getting the diameter when you're collecting the information. So this is Veronica, just kind of posing for us using the GPS unit. That's me just showing off, pretending I'm busy. But that's the full setup, and that's basically what we use for pretty much all our data collection. We were really impressed with the device, with the Trimble device, with the Zephyr antenna and all that, because we had a dense, tree canopy, and it was still getting within 3 to 4 inches. When we hired this professional company in 2009, they went out, and they're all professional foresters, biologists, botanists, whatever, and they gave us tons of information, right down to the subspecies of the tree. We didn't go that detail with this project. We went with a generalization identification. But one of the disadvantages of what they did, and we hosted it out in the cloud at one time, and it wasn't very effective for what we were doing. We wanted it on premise too. But they didn't GPS it as pinpointed. It was pretty much off. So we had to, move the dots to the actual tree. So with using this GPS device, like I said, it's within 3 to 4 inches. So we GPSed, or actually Veronica GPSed, all the new trees that were planted since 2009, I believe. Is that right there?
Correct.
Yep. And basically, we got it right down to the level that we needed at. And we just I created a TerraSync or application for the GPS, and Veronica just went nuts with the GPS unit and started collecting the new trees. We also used a Juno device. Basically, with this, why I went this route is because our existing inventory was needed to be updated, and for this, it allows for that synchronization between ArcPad. You check out the data, you check it back in. It works very effectively, very simple, and it worked pretty good, didn't it? Yeah. With the Rangefinder device, like I said, we bought this Rangefinder this year. We actually bought an extension for it for ArcPad. It works with Bluetooth, so when you do the measurement, it'll sync the data or upload the data into the GPS device. We didn't have time to actually test that, so Veronica had to do the measurement and then tap in the measurement in the Juno device, or in the ArcPad, not the ArcPad, but the GeoXH device. So this is an example, if you can see it, of how Veronica is doing the height of the tree. She's shooting the tree at eye level for the first shot, and then the second shot is at the base, and then at the top, and then you get the height. So very, very cool tool. One of the things that we've done this year in the Parks Department and in the GIS Department, I had a GIS intern that worked with me during the summers. We started utilizing QGIS. Like I mentioned, I don't want to get into too much of the details of what QGIS, because it's not really for the discussion, but it was a test pilot to see how QGIS would be effective for our organization. Like I said, we use open source software in our GIS and in our IT. Pretty much what we do is a hybrid approach. And why do we do it? Because number one, it's free, it's very effective. It has a lot of advanced editing features in the application, and I'm very impressed by it, matter of fact. And basically, we've been testing some of the simple analytical approaches, viewing the tables, such as what Veronica and Doug have been doing, simple queries. We use Arc Reader throughout our organization via mobile with the tough books, and we also use it internally in our departments. We also have desktop licenses, but that was grandfathered in when I arrived there in 2009, and those are single seat licenses. So that means that you could only have it on that person's desktop, where a concurrent license is where you can share it on the network. And the only concurrent license that I have is my ArcInfo or ArcGIS Advanced, they call it these days. That's the granddaddy of all GIS for editing. Very expensive. So basically what I was saying is that we did simple mapping, geospatial analysis using QGIS, and it gave us the mobile capabilities. It was downloaded from Doug's Tough book, so he was able to view the information if you wanted to out in the field. This is just a real quick data, how the data is being flowed through our system. Basically, we have ArcPad, Trimble, GeoXH. There should be a QGIS. I didn't have time to, I realized I messed up on the slide, but it's all being pumped through me actually, and then going up to our ArcGIS server. So we do have ArcGIS Server Enterprise Basic, and then it starts flowing through various scripts that I've created over the years to GeoMoose, to Map Server. GeoMoose is our web mapping system. That's another open source system. And then from our server for synchronization. So a picture of QGIS in action, GeoMoose. I want to just show, before I end the conclusion, just to kind of show you what GeoMoose is. Oh, it looks like somebody... All right, I had it up and everything. It looks like somebody closed it, but I'm going to just kind of Google it. So if you're interested, you can go to Village of Bellevue GIS Interactive Mapping. And you could either click one of these two right here. By the way, Village of Bellevue is part of the Green Bay metropolitan area, if you did not know that. So we've got a disclaimer. So all this was done internally. I created this over the years. I'm going to just show you one of the things that we did for the EAB Readiness, and Doug had like something where it was saying, visit our website, view our data if you want to, of where your ash trees are located. So just kind of show you where the ash trees, like Forestry, Village ash trees. So you can view the data here, and you can zoom in. This is actually like Veronica was saying, there's it's a monoculture type setup, meaning there's only one single species in this area, and pretty much it would be very devastating if we had emerald ash borer. So you can get it right down to viewing the species name and then looking at the aerial photography if you need to, and so on. So that's all available to the public, and the public has viewed this information on our online mapping system. And then we also use it for internal use only too. So it's pretty interesting how we've been mixing up different types of technologies and GIS into the mix of our organization to really save us a lot of money in software maintenance costs and so on. So in conclusion, I'm going to just speak on my behalf, and then Veronica can speak about the EAB readiness. But it seemed like the GIS, the GPS, and the Rangefinder seemed very effective tool for what we needed for the EAB readiness and for the inspection and the inventory and keeping up to date with the information. And then also it seems that the QGIS is becoming a good replacement, in my opinion, for ArcReader, for what it gives the organization more capability of analyzing the data. And I'm willing to explore that concept in the near future. And hopefully, maybe this could be a great value tool for the organization. So.
All right, if you were curious, our EAB Readiness Plan was actually adopted by the village. So everything that we did this summer, everything we did with the ash trees, our ash tree inventory, the total tree inventory, and the 5-year plan that came out of it, all approved. Basically, since we had some time, the 5-year plan just took the numbers that we had for the ash trees. We looked at their conditions. We said, okay, trees under a 0.3 need to go within the first year. So that was like 100 trees. And from there, we were able to do the increments as we needed. In order to try and update this project and stay on top of it, we did apply for another urban forestry grant. Obviously, it's not awarded yet, but that's how we intend to actively maintain and bridge the gap between the plant starting and emerald ash borer.
Any questions or comments? Yes.
When you were doing the
to do the highlight tree was actually probably the easiest part because I could do it as I was walking towards the tree. So a lot of the time I'd be at the last tree and I'd take 2 steps, I'd do it, type it in as I walk to the tree, and I'd grab the rest of the measurements. So that was
very quick.
Yeah, it was literally the easiest part.
Basically, you park on one side of the street, go down one side, come back on the other side. We have some additional information on EAB sitting over here on the table. Anybody that'd like to grab some? I have an example of some of the material in the binder. If you wish to look at that too.